For what? Why should I have the table in front of me? What's the purpose? Jayo Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Janavanabha Idibadurade Gopi Jana Malaba Idibadurade Yasudanandana Braja Janarandahuna Yasudanandana Braja Janaranjana Unatera Manachari Yamunatera Manachari Jai Hurad Umadava Gunya Vihati Jai Huvradam Padhuva Gunya Vihati Gopinana Madhava Giri Baladati Gopinana Manaba Giri Badada Hudi Yasudanandana Rajajanuranjana Yasudanandana Brajajanu Ranjana Munatera Manachadi Yamunatera Manachadi Jai Urad Omadava Kunya Bihagoti Jai Urad Umadava Kunya Bihagoti Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya Osateta Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Vijay ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Vijay Anandagoti Vaishnav Vrindigajay Namacharya Srila Hridas Thakur Vijay Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Sati Gaur Bhakta Vrindigajay Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Kijai Vrindavanam Kijai Maturanam Kijai Jagannath Swami Kijai Yamunamai Kijai Srimad Vilas Devi Kijai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Kijai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschachate Tarani. Okay, so we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 41st chapter, text 17. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Ayasye Bhagavato Geham Aham Arya Samanvitaha Yadu Chakra Druhang Hatva Vitarishe Suret Priyam Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Ayasya Bhagavato Geham Bhavato Geham Aham Arya Samanvitaka Yadu Chakra Druham Hatva Vitarishe Surit Priyam Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Ayase bhavato geham. Aham arya saman vitakha. Yaru chakra druham hatva. Vitarishe surit priyam. Shri Bhagavan uvacha. Ayasye vavato geham. Ahamarya saman vitakha. Yadu chakra druham hatva. Vitarishe surit priyam. Okay. Shri Bhagavan uvacha. Ayasye bhavato geham. All right. Shri Bhagavan uvacha. The Supreme Lord said, Ayasye will come. Bhavataha to your Geham house. Aham I. Arya by my elder brother Balaram. Samanvitaha accompanied. Yadu Chakra of the circle of Yadus. Druham, the enemy, Kamsa. Hotwa, killing. Pitarishe, I will grant. Surit, to my well-wishers. Priyam, satisfaction. All right. The translation, the Supreme Lord said, I will come to your house with my elder brother, but first I must satisfy my friends and well-wishers by killing the enemy of the Yadu clan. So you can repeat, the Supreme Lord said, I will come to your house with my elder brother, but first I must satisfy my friends and well-wishers by killing the enemy of the Yadu clan. Very interesting verse. So, purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Akrura glorified Krishna in text 16 as Yadutama, the best of the Yadus. Sri Krishna here confirms this by saying, in effect, since I am the best of the Yadus, I must kill the enemy of the Yadus, Kamsa, and then I will come to your house. So there's a commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami. O Akrura, you have correctly called me the best of the Yadus, therefore I will first kill Kamsa, the violator of the Yadu clan, and then I will come to your house. Jiva Goswami states, I will come with Balaram. Krishna would not come with the other cowards since they would not stay that long in Mathura. When will that be? I will come when I have killed the enemy of the Yadus. He does not directly mention Kamsa because of Kamsa's inauspiciousness and fear of revealing the plan. I show affection for the Yadus by freeing Vasudev and others. It is not proper to come to your house and receive a welcome when the Yadus are suffering and my parents are in prison. So we're going to start with this particular verse. And we may go to other verses. Ah, I have to swallow the mic. All right. Anyway, so Om Ganat, so Sri Bhagavan Vachasariyashe Bhavato Gehamarham Aham Arya Samanvita Yaruchakra Druham Hatva Vitorishe Surit Priham. So Om Ganat Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shi Gurave Namaha. So several things are happening here that I want to comment on. First of all, it's common sense that he's not going to go visiting people's houses while his mother and father are imprisoned and Kunks is still alive. Not only is it common sense, but we actually find that Chanakya Pandit, who has been quoted by Srila Prabhupada, actually Chanakya Pandit has this Niti Shastra, which means basically common sense, how to deal with things in this material world. He says that if you have fire, or if you have debt or disease, you got to take care of these things first. Why? Because they get worse with time, right? Like if something's on fire, or you have some little growth on your skin, or you owe money and they're charging. Of course, now the interest rate's going up. Then better to get rid of it. I mean, I find some people, I'm just talking about debt, for example. Some people think, oh, we just pay it every month. You know, I find that in the consciousness of people. We just pay it every month and not realizing they're paying 3 or 4 times the value of whatever they've just bought. And I explain to them sometimes, maybe you should pay it off earlier. I've explained that, make some advance payments. No. Because if you pay it off earlier, it's like putting money in the bank at 5 or 6%. Anyway, it's one of the axes I have to grind with people who just don't understand that point. So anyway, so this is common sense. All these things should be taken care of right away. So here we have Kamsa, who is a disease. He's actually a disease on the Yadu dynasty. He's fire, he's burning up everything. Because I don't know about debt, putting people into debt. So he has to be taken care of right away. So another point here is that Krishna doesn't specifically mention Kamsa. He says the enemy, he uses the particular word here, Druha, which means enemy. But he doesn't say Kamsa. And the reason is that 2 reasons. Because if you say someone's name, an inauspicious thing, it actually draws inauspicious energy to you. Just like, of course, even in that movie, it says, "You cannot be named." I don't know if you know that movie. Anyway, it's just not important, isn't it? Voldemort. Anyway, he who cannot be named. And also, probably if you talk about GHOSTS, then you're actually drawing them to you. So it's actually modes of nature, inauspicious things. You're actually attracting those particular elements to you, or glorifying them. Just like when you glorify Krishna, you're attracting Krishna to you. Namachintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigara. So better we just talk about Krishna rather than inauspicious things. Another point is Krishna says, Krishna's not mentioning Kamsa's name because he wants to keep, it's not exactly secret, but he doesn't really want to reveal the extent of his plans. Now, Prabhupada was asked sometimes, you have so many plans. What are your plans? And Prabhupada said, if I reveal them to you, they'll be spoiled. So it's not as if we have plans. We don't reveal it uh, to people. Another point here is that things that are urgent, which is pretty much the same point that Chanakya was made, have to be taken care of immediately. So how does that refer, or how is that understood in reference to ourselves? What is urgent for ourselves? I mean, other than, there is definitely a fire, or death, or disease. What's urgent is Krishna consciousness. And we find this in the seventh canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the story of Prahlad Maharaj. His classmates are not thinking that Krishna consciousness is so urgent. They're thinking, we have time. We're just little kids. And the famous verse that Prahlad Maharaj speaks, Komaram Aksharet Pragyo Dharam Bhagavatam Niva, Durlabha Manasid Dhruvam, Tadav Dhruvam Arthadam. You should take up Krishna consciousness from the beginning, because you're always going to have an excuse of things that you think are higher priority. For example, you may say, now we're just kids, which the kids are saying. And then you'll say, now we're adolescents. Now we just got married. Now we have to do business and make money. Now we're retired. Now we're dead. So anyways, and then Prahlad Maharaj speaks very nicely how they 50% of your life is wasted sleeping. And then he gives this whole percentage, and I forget the exact details, 10% here, 20% here, 30% there, 10%. And actually, if you add up all these different percentages, you get to probably more than 100%. So you always have a reason for not taking up Krishna consciousness. So the whole point is that we should set priorities in life. What is most important, and then act according to those priorities rather than divert ourselves to other things. So this is Ekeha Kurunandana. So anyway, so this is what I want to speak about, the first verse, and then we'll go on to read more verses. So the next verse, 18, we're going to read the Sanskrit and then the translation. Shri Shukavacha Heva Mukto Bhagavata Sokruro Vimanaiva Purim Pravishta Kangsaya Karma Vedya Rahang Yaya. Shukadeva Goswami said, thus addressed by the Lord, Akrura entered the city with a heavy heart. He informed King Kamsa of the success of his mission and then went home. And Jiva Goswami has a very short commentary. Most eager and joyful that he had brought Krishna, he was now morose. Eva is an ornament. It does not mean as if in the context, or since Krishna promised to come later and had promised to kill Kamsa, he was not really morose. He thought, tomorrow Krishna will kill Kamsa and come to my house. Thus he went home to clean his house for Krishna's coming. Out of attachment for Krishna, he did nothing else until Krishna arrived. It is not described anywhere later that he did anything else. So of course he was two minds. He was disappointed that Krishna wasn't coming, and he was also happy that Krishna wasn't going to kill Kamsa. So he's morose and not morose simultaneously. So that's all I can say about this verse. Next verse. Ataparane Bhagavan Krishna Sankarshanam Vita Mathuram Pravishad Gopar Didrikshu Parivaritaha. Lord Krishna desired to see Mathura. So toward evening, he took Lord Balaram and the coward boys with him and entered the city. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur basically says the same thing. In the afternoon, Krishna, along with Balaram, surrounded by his coward friends, Gopai Varita, entered Mathura to see the city. And Jiva Goswami, the same thing. Krishna went with his friends into the city. Sanatana Goswami says, basically, a little bit more. After Krura entered the city, the Lord displaying his powers, Bhagavan, who attracts all hearts, Krishna, entered the city to give mercy to the inhabitants by attracting their minds. He was endowed with the bhava of attracting the hearts of devotees, Sankarshanan Vitha, or he went with Balaram, who had the same bhava. In this way, he would be happy in seeing the city. His friends like Sridham served him, or he was surrounded completely by them, since Balaram or Nanda feared for his safety. Little comment on this that Krishna was reciprocating with his devotees, and as he says in the Gita, Yayatamam Pandite, Tamsadaiva Vajami Ham, Amavart Manavartante, Manushapartha Sarvashaha, and Krishna's devotees wanted to see him. So the first thing he was going to do was actually enter the city so the devotees could see him and experience the emotions and have their hearts attracted. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this one. So the next text is actually quite lengthy. It's actually 3 texts in one. Nadarsha tam spatika tunga gopura varam brahadema kapata toranam tam rarakostam parikadurasatam ujjana ramyo pavano prashobitam Sovarna Sringataka Karma Nishkutai Srini Savabhir Pavanairopaskritam Vaidurya Vajramalanila Vidrumair Mukta Haridbhir Valabhishu Vedishu Juteshu Jala Mukha Randra Kute Meshu Avishta Paravata Barhinadikatam Sam Shiktarapja Padamarga Chatvaram Prakirna Malyan Pudalaja Tandulam Apurna Kumbar Dadi Chandanokshitai Prasuna Dipa Valibir Sapalavai Savrindaramba Pramukai Sakitupi Swalankrita Dwara Graham Sapatikai. So this is describing Mathura. The Lord saw Mathura with its tall gates and household entrances made of crystal, its immense archways and main doors of gold, its granaries and other storehouses of copper and brass, and its impregnable moats. Beautifying the city were pleasant gardens and parks. The main intersections were fashioned of gold, and there were mansions with private pleasure gardens, along with guild halls and many other buildings. Mathura resounded with the calls of peacocks and pet turtle doves, who sat in the small openings of the lattice windows and on the gem-studded floors, and also on the columned balconies and on the ornate rafters in front of the house. These balconies and rafters were adorned with Vaidurya stones. That means stones that would exhibit different features from different angles. Like the Lord is sometimes described as a Vaidurya stone. According to one's approach to the Lord, one sees the Lord in different ways. Diamonds, crystal, quartz, sapphires, coral, pearls, and emeralds. All the royal avenues and commercial streets were sprinkled with water, as were the side roads and courtyards and flower garlands, newly grown sprouts, hmm, parched grains, and rice had been scattered about everywhere. Gracing the houses' doorways were elaborately decorated pots filled with water, which were bedecked with mango leaves, smeared with yogurt and sandalwood paste, and encircled by flower petals and ribbons. Near the pots were flags, rows of lamps, bunches of flowers, and the trunks of banana and betel nut trees. Wow. So Srila Prabhupada explains, and not Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada's servants explain, that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives this description of the elaborately decorated pots on either side of each doorway. Above the scattered rice is a pot. Encircling each pot are flower petals, on its neck are ribbons, and in its mouth are leaves of mango and other trees. Above each pot on a gold plate are rows of lamps. The trunk of a banana tree stands on either side of the pot, and a betel nut tree trunk stands in front and also behind. Flags lean against the pots. So there's some commentaries, actually quite lengthy. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that 4 verses describe the city. The tall towers and gates, as well as the gates of the houses, were made of crystal. The door panels and outer doors were made of gold. The storehouses for grains, koshta, were made of brass and copper. Surrounded by moats, the city was difficult to enter. The intersections were made of gold. There were mansions with large gardens of buildings for the different craftsmen to meet, as well as other dwellings. The rafters were inlaid with Vaidurya and other jewels. The buildings echoed with the cries of doves and peacocks, which sat on the rafters, floors, and balconies. According to Shurok Swami, Wallaby refers to the peak of the roof, and according to Halayuda, it refers to the roof. According to Tri Kunda, it refers to the top story of a building. In any case, it refers to the top part of the building. Vedi refers to the terrace in front of a building, surrounded by bricks for relaxing. The windows had lattices to let in fresh air. The floors, putima, were paved with mosaics of precious stones. There were many roads and lanes, lines of shops and courtyards. So you may think, why all this description? What's so spiritual about all this description? Well, it's the Lord's abode. So anything related with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the opulence related with the Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually spiritual. Krishna saw the houses with doors decorated with full water pots. Also, all this indication of different auspicious things to do according to the Vedic system, and also ways to receive honored guests like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna saw the houses with doors decorated with full water pots, decorated with flowers, smeared with yogurt and sandalwood paste, and 5 other auspicious elements: flags, cloth, lamps, mango leaves, and banana, and betel nut trees hanging with fruits. The pots were placed in the following manner. On both sides of the door were piles of raw rice. On piles of raw rice, the pots were placed. Around the pots were spread various flowers. Silk cloth was wrapped around the neck of the pots, and mango leaves placed in the mouths of the pots. Lamps on gold trays were placed over this. On either side of each pot were banana trees. In front of behind each pot was a betel nut tree. The flags were leaning on the pots. And Jiva Goswami states, the city is described in 4 verses. First is natural beauty. First is the natural beauty, which is described. Ara means brass. The city is said to have moats to the east and west side, were bordered by the Yamuna. The gardens, Udyana, were filled with fruits, and the Upavanas, that means the smaller forests. Sorry, not forests, Upanavas. That means smaller gardens, were mainly growing flowers. The grove where the cowards left their carts was outside the city and a natural forest not produced by humans. The groves were attractive. Kostam can refer to the walls of the fort. The city was decorated with groves and the pleasantness of gardens. The order of that excellence is the gardens, and then the groves, moats, treasuries, and the entrance gates and other doors made of gold. Here again, according to Shiraswami, Balabi means the support of the roof. We read that. Crossbeam with the crest of the roof. Haladyuta says that Balabi means the roof of the house. It also refers to a stone ridge covering a house made of brick. Trikandesha says that Balabi means a room at the top of the house. Magya Kavya says Yasham Ashevanta Namad Lika Saman Vadubir Balabir Yuvan. There the young men enjoyed with their wives the sloping roofs with turrets, like a little room at the top of the house. Vedi refers to a yard surrounded by bricks. The houses resounded with peacocks and doves who were sitting of Vishnu in yards and rooftops in an impassioned condition. Kamsa had arranged special decorations to publicize the festival of the bow among the citizens. Of course, the citizens, they were actually welcoming Krishna. And Kamsa was engaged Yata Sukriti in Krishna's service. Or there were daily decorations made by the citizens to make the city festive at all times. The decorations indicated the auspicious entrance of Krishna into the city. The roads were sprinkled with water in order to keep the dust down and made fragrant with perfumed water. Sprouted barley and other grains were scattered about. All the decorations were arranged wherever possible. There were pots filled with pure water, apurna. The doors of the houses were decorated nicely, su with yogurt and other ingredients. In Sridhar Swami's commentary, the word can in Toranam cha means decorations over the doors are also made of gold. So the opulence of the turret is described. So anybody have any questions? I don't have too much to say about it. I mean, it's just pretty much self-explanatory, these last few words. What? Yeah. I mean, there's not too much to say because it's pretty much explanatory. Krishna goes in, he doesn't reveal Kamsa's name. I mean, it's just not too much for me to say. Maybe someone else would like to add something to it or questions. Yeah. Atmosphere.
That's basically it. And to have that mood of making everything beautiful, that it's the Lord's place.
And so when people come, but not only that,
but it's also for the deities.
Yeah, for the
you know,
deities.
that this is their abode. I remember I was visiting one of of our most beautiful temples in the world, where and grounds, everything, you know, and one of the leaders there was saying that the deities actually walk around the property. We shouldn't think that they're just sitting on the altar, that they're going to every place in the property, and that everything should always be beautiful and auspicious to greet them. And we also have, like, not only was the city beautifully decorated, but how Akura, as soon as he learns that Krishna is going to his home,
he decorates his home.
Yeah, and it said he didn't do anything else, right? That was what the Acharya said. That
Yeah, he just didn't do anything else.
So he didn't even go to, like, the wrestling thing and see Kamsa being killed.
No.
He just stayed home and made sure that everything was
very nice.
very nice. And I thought about the Ramayana with Shobri.
Yeah, Shobri was just waiting for.
But how she made everything so nice, you know. And sometimes we have a tendency to forget that. You know, just like there's a pot of flowers offered on the altar, and the flowers die, and somebody just sticks them out at the door, or throws dead flowers everywhere, or, you know.
Good point.
It's something that to always be conscious of that this is Krishna's place. We're receiving him, and every aspect of the property should be I mean, obviously we can't do emeralds and diamonds and gold, but at least we could have it be.
Yeah,
That was my,
I agree 100%.
that
And
was my thought.
plus there should be an attitude of welcoming guests. You know, that not that the guests are seen as just interfering with one's service or one's life or one's prasadam. I mean, sometimes I come up here in the middle of the day and there's guests here and I welcome them. Have you gotten prasadam? Here's where the prasadam is. Thank you for coming. So there has to be a welcoming attitude. The attitude has to be there. The decorations have to be there. Yes, actually, it's very important. The temples should be like that. Yeah. Yeah, it's a model for us to follow. So, you have a question? Brenda,
I notice sometimes when people come to Krishna consciousness, they'll come to somebody's home or they'll come to the temple and they're like, well, we're not supposed to be materialistic. So why do you decorate or why do you have things so nicely like this? Like it seems like they come and they think it should just be bare,
should be rustic.
like rustic or something.
Yeah, that's Mayavadi philosophy, because everything belongs to Krishna. Everything is meant for Krishna's pleasure. So we want to make things as nice as possible for Krishna. I mean, just like recently, of course, I've been concerned with the quality of the food that's being offered to Krishna. I'm just like, it's disturbing me. I'm looking at different, I'm not going to get into really specifics, but I've been looking at different machines to make better. I'm not saying what it is, but anyway, there's certain things that are just like driving me crazy. So, and then also insisting that we use ghee, at least for cooking the deities preparations. I mean, I can understand, for other things. So for the deities preparation, there must be ghee. Everything has to be first class for Krishna. And Prabhupada said the temples should be revolutionary, clean, just like they say in the Navy, you should be able to eat on the decks of the ship. That's how clean it should be. And Prabhupada said, Brahman means clean, both inside and outside.
So it's the difference between personalism and impersonalism.
That's impersonalism. Yeah, they're gorgeous and they're voidous. So everything should be just really first class. Of course, we have certain material limitations or manpower or people power limitations. So we try our best within our limited ability to make everything nice.
It's one other thing I was thinking of when you were reading through that description.
Yeah.
The Bhagavatam also gives descriptions like that of Indra's planet. Like it goes through detailed descriptions.
Right.
Lord Shiva's planet. But one of the things that's always struck me is when Lord Vishnu rescues Gajendra. And in the Stutipala, he says, anyone who remembers, and he lists not only, my coming, my rescuing you, my rescuing the crocodile, but he lists all the things in the setting, all these descriptions of the setting. And he says, anyone who remembers this, well, I forget the exact benediction, will become, go to my abode or get free from sins or whatever. But it always just struck me how he wants us to remember all these details of the setting. I've never been able to wrap my head around why, what exactly is the benefit of remembering, this bird singing and this kind of flowers in the trees at the Trikut mountain where the Lord rescued Gajendra. Yeah. I mean, another thing is I listen to audiobooks all the time. And right now I'm listening to your reading Krishna Kanaika Kamudi. And I just was listening to the 6 forests of Vrindavan, where Kavi Kanapur is describing again all the different, the different birds and the different flowers and the different trees and everything settings. Do you have any insight about why there's that benediction with Gajendra? Because it's always like,
Because if you remember the scenario, you remember the pastime. You're supposed to visualize like just to remember something is not, I mean, just remember details like the words and everything like that is not complete remembrance. Well, when you can visualize a scenario, just like when we're reading Krishna book, at least when I'm reading the Krishna book, I'm actually visualizing what's going on in my mind's eye. So in order to, for many people, I mean, in order to fully visualize, you need to visualize the scene that's there too. So it helps with the remembrance or focus on Krishna. Otherwise, I mean, Krishna, you just think of Krishna and there's nothing, it's just blank, everything around Krishna. So it has to, yeah, he's never alone. I mean, even Krishna's paraphernalia is personal. So you're remembering devotees too. I mean, even if you're remembering the birds and the trees and everything around Krishna, maybe not specifically around the tree Kut mountain, but around Krishna. And then you actually, it's cemented in the consciousness when you actually have the full remembrance of the scenario. Does that make sense? It helps you remember it. Otherwise, it's just words. You know, it should be visualization. I remember when I was young, we would read different novels, unfortunately, but none of them had anything to do with Krishna. But I would actually visualize. I mean, I had these science fiction novels, especially, and I would visualize the spaceships. And I remember these things to today. Everything that I visualized, even more than the movies or videos that I saw, because the videos, you're not using your imagination. And it's easy to forget things. But when you actually read something and you hear about the scenario or the scene surrounding that particular pastime or activity, then it cements itself into your consciousness. Does that make sense? Okay, confirmed. All glorious to his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Maravindadalaya Taksam Bharavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Andani Asa Sakale Priya Priti Manti Vasyanti Bhakti Kayanti Giram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Namaho Vishnu Vaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Samaniti Namine Namaho Vishnu Padaya Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Samaniti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacha Nivesesha Shunyavade Vasyachade Sacharande Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrindanaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrindanaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrindanaya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radhe, 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 Radhe. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jai Radhe, Jai Sri Radhe, Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahamsa.
Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Pratipadam Murnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapitani Amrita Smarane Nakala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Dordaiva Midrishami Hat Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Va Jagadishikamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavadad Bhakti Rohitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vapada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrashim Pachintaya Nayanam Galada Shudaraya Varanam Gadgada Ridaya Gira